You are at Lake Rant, where I rant about whatever my $10 a month plus patrons want me to rant about. You can get one of these by being one of those. This one's for Badonkadonk, who says, rant about the supernatural. I vaguely remember seeing in one of your videos that you said you were never really religious and don't believe in the supernatural. What made you come to that decision, and what would you describe as the closest to a supernatural experience you've had? Doesn't necessarily mean you have to believe it was. Do you even find it interesting at all? Pretty much just give as much as you want or can about it. So, my interest in the supernatural or belief in it has definitely waned over the course of my life. Not that I was ever particularly into it, but I definitely believed more in the idea of like that you could have like a spiritual impact on a location that sort of like, you know, a space would remember all that has come through it. And to some degree, you could defend that notion in the sense of like, you know, all the air in my house is constantly being displaced, right, by my breath. And so, you know, there's like a cycle of my breath flowing through this house. And were I to die one day, perhaps some traces of that would still be in the air. I don't know. Like, human beings are not even constructed of the same atoms after 7 years. We're completely replaced with other atoms. So, like, you know, the idea that like a spiritual energy would remain in one spot, you know, like there's no real like physical justification for that idea. So, you know, definitely don't believe in any higher powers or anything like beyond death. Like at best, I would think that like some kind of long-term displacement might have some kind of impact that would shape the character of an area in some way that could perhaps be felt somehow. You know, like a smell that hasn't left the air. But again, you know, that's very little. And ultimately, the human brain is extremely fallible at interpretation. It picks up fuck tons of sensory data at all times. Most of it tries to ignore and tries to just like fill in the blanks with what it's already seen before. Like for instance, when you maybe have heard this before, but when you take a drive that you've taken 100 times before, you literally do not take in the information of what you're seeing newly, unless it is new information. Your brain already knows what this drive looks like, and it fills in the blanks interpretively. Like, it kind of like how when you upscale an image on a computer, like let's say you take an image that's 240 pixels across and you blow it up to the size of a 1080p monitor. Well, you notice that it becomes artifacted because the image has had to, you know, fill in all those extra pixels that are now part of the image with you know, colors that are similar to the ones that were already present in the image. And so the same thing is happening when you are driving, right? Like, most of what you are seeing is just being, you know, fill in the blanks. It's not fully legible. And since we spend so much of our time in a state like that, seeing the familiar, any little thing that's different that catches our attention, you know, is going to be, like, shocking or exciting or startling. And if that thing is inexplainable, or if your brain interpreted it in such a way that it took a shape, you know, that you know, had some significance to you, then you will interpret that as having had a supernatural experience, you know, as something you can't explain. But those kind of things happen all the fucking time. I mean, for me as like a kind of a paranoid guy, you know, I'm always seeing shit out of the corner of my eyes. I'm always like, you know, like, oh shit, what was that speck I saw? But then I realize what it is, you know, or I can rationalize it. I realize it, okay, you know, that weird thing you saw in the sky, you know, think about what it could be. Think about the possibilities of, you know, and those are more likely to be true than it being something completely unexplained or unseen for all fucking time, you know? So, like, the most supernatural, I guess, thing, or extraterrestrial, truly, I've seen is a UFO. A ultra-low flying UFO me and Victor both saw. We were standing outside of our house on our way to go indoors, and directly overhead, past just like a round, seemingly round, craft, very low, and with lots of lights on the bottom, like lots of big bright lights. And it looked like, for all definitions, a UFO. It also did not make any noise. So we both immediately were like, we just saw a UFO. Now, again, it passed over really quick. I only saw a glance. How much of my interpretation was filled in the blanks in my head. It was at dusk. I couldn't have had a perfect view. I mean, in my mind, the bright lights were illuminating the underside of a like light gray saucer of some kind. But it could have been a jet. It could have just been a plane. It was in Newport News we're talking about. There's a shipyard nearby. There's air traffic of all sorts. Military traffic, stuff like that. I mean, here in Virginia Beach, just fucking planes constantly. Planes and jets. So, was it a UFO? In my mind, yes, because I've never seen anything like it, and that's what it looked like. And I won't discredit the existence of UFOs, alien or otherwise. Aliens definitely exist. But the supernatural, I think mostly could be explained by hiccups in perception, by people not having a full grasp of what they're looking at, filling in the blanks with their minds and imagination.